Hi, everyone. It's Kelly from the Hub here today with our friend Todd from Tabor Community Services. How are you there?
I'm doing well.
Good. Remember that Todd is the one who knows everything financial and has been spending some time with us, helping us save a little money, teaching us how to be proactive so that we can save a little money, and just keeping us overall fiscally fit. I think that might be a nice way to say it. So the past couple of weeks, we have talked about some healthcare stuff, ways to save money on your prescription. And last week we talked about medical assistance program that health systems offer, and how you can do that. And so this week we're going to talk about 10 financial myths. This is one of those things that when I read over the list, some of those I went, oh, I thought that was true. Whoops, we're going to have a conversation about that one. So, all right, there's 10 of these babies. So let's start it off. Todd, what's the first one?
Oh, then, and they're in no specific order.
Perfect.
But paying bills is the same as managing my money. A lot of people think that, well, I pay my bills every month, so I must budget. I must be managing my income and everything else. And
I used to do that. I'm much better at it now, but I would say in my youth, I thought that if I balanced the checkbook, that I was managing my money.
well, at least balancing the checkbook is like a step in between.
Okay.
We run into folks a lot of times when we do counseling here or coaching at Tabor where they say, well, we ask them, well, do you have a budget? And they're like, yeah, I pay my bills every month. So if your bills come in and you have 6 bills and you pay them, what happens with the rest of the money? When we ask them questions like how much is in your account, how much do you earn, what's your income, how
Right.
much you bring home, they don't know those answers, and they don't know how much they can save or how much is in a savings, if any. And they don't have a plan. Their plan is a simple plan to just pay the bills, which is good because that can help build your credit and different things like that, paying them on time. But an actual budget is a plan on how do you spend and save money. So you know how much money is coming in. You track all of your expenses, not just the bills. How much did you spend on gas? How much did you spend going out to eat this month? DoorDash, whatever at that point. And you're tracking all those so you know you're within your income, within your budget. So next month, you're not going to have a shortfall where you couldn't pay your rent or do something else. So that's kind of and I don't want to get too in depth because we do have courses and classes that go into all the specifics on these. But
Absolutely.
that's the first one. That's there
Okay.
that you need to track all of your bills for at least 30 days to consider it a budget, and you need to continue to do that as income and other things could change.
Yeah, I think that I'm going to have to read a few tips about budgeting because I'm not as good at that as I sort of thought it was. So, all right. So, but that's good. Managing your money is not paying your bills. All right.
Right.
Number two.
That one would be putting everything on my credit card because I have a rewards program.
Okay.
That is
I know a
not,
lot of people who do that.
yes. Well, and a lot of people do it, but they pay their card off at the end of the month. If you do that, that's a great opportunity for you to earn something like points or miles or cash back or whatever it is. But if you don't pay it off each month, here's the catch. If they're giving you 2% or 3% back and they're charging you 16% interest, who's winning that? It's not you. The house always wins with these type of things. So yeah, anytime that you have a program on your card and you leave a balance on it at the end of the month, I would say in most cases you're losing that battle. I don't care what percentage they're giving you, even if it was 10%, most people are still paying more in interest. So they entice you with these programs and say, well, I put my groceries on there, and I'll raise my hand. I put my groceries on my credit card, but
Right.
it's paid off every month, and then I get rewards. I depending on what I want it for. If it's a big purchase and I want cash back, I use one card. If it's another one where I want to get all kinds of miles for my frequent flyer miles, then I use that one. So it just depends on which one I want. I've accumulated over like 35,000 miles in the last year using that one card that gives me miles with an airline. So at some point in the future, I'll probably have a gazillion miles and I can go on a plane again. I'm not planning on doing that now, but so the rewards program is a great gimmick. And if you're in the position to be able to pay your credit card off each month, it's a great opportunity to make a little money because of your good credit and because of your good history. But if you're leaving balances on it every month, and the only reason why you're using the card is because you want to get some sort of reward,
Right.
you're not getting ahead. You're getting behind.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say those commercials make all those little programs sound fantastic, but you're right. They don't say pay it off every month and then you'll really get it, rather than okay, yeah, because then who would do it? Right. Yep. Okay,
Exactly.
that makes sense. So are we on number 3?
We are.
Delightful.
And number 3 is once I sign up for a service or program or utility, I don't need to call them unless I have a problem. And I'll go back to my thing about being proactive. I call my utilities at least once a year. Cable, telephone, cell phone, electric bill, gas, whatever it is, I call at least once a year, if not more often, because they send you junk mail that says "Dear Neighbor" or whatever,
Right,
and
right,
there's some
right.
sort of new promotion
Yeah.
that they're offering the new people that they're not offering you. What a lot of people don't know, because of a lot of the laws that went out back in the 80s and 90s with telemarketers,
Yeah.
that some of these companies are not allowed to call you to solicit you. So because of that, when you get on the line and say, I'm having a problem with my utilities, they usually say, do you have a minute, Mr. Capiteo? Can we talk to you about this new program? The reason why they do that is because they can't solicit you proactively over the phone.
Okay.
So they want to try to take advantage of having you on the line. Well, don't hang up. Stay on the line and listen to what they have to say, because sometimes it could be because you've gotten a few years older and there's a plan for people of a certain age, or there's just a new plan. Like I called Comcast Xfinity the other day, and they said I was upset because they had changed something on how my service works, and they said, yeah, you're paying this, but did you know we can get you the better deal and you actually pay $10 less, and we'll guarantee that rate for 2 years. So just calling and talking to them about a problem allowed me to find out that there was a better plan. I can get all the stuff I have now plus more for $10 less per month. So I know it's not a huge amount, but 10 times 12, that's $120 I'll have extra next year that I didn't have this year.
And if there's whatever 6 bills you have, and if you can save $10 a month on 6 bills times how many ever, then, I mean, we've talked about this before. Every little bit adds up, and you always say you never get the deal unless you ask, or the
Yes.
the lowest. And what are they going to say? No?
Yep. And you can, depending on the utility, you could threaten, well, if you're with Verizon and you want to switch to AT&T, you can say, well, they're going to give me a better deal if you don't. And if they say, well, we can't, then great, go get the new deal someplace else if you want to.
Yeah.
So you can try to pit them against each other as well. But yeah, I definitely try to use that whenever I can. I was with a cell phone service for almost 20 years, and I've just switched in the last few years because the deal was just better. It saved me hundreds of dollars a month because I had 5 lines of service between everyone in my household. So yeah, it just made sense.
It's about making the phone call. And we've
Yep.
talked about this too. Time is money, man. So you're going to spend 20 minutes and right. And we've talked about that. Is it worth 20 minutes of your life, or is it worth 2 hours of your life? If
Right.
it's not worth, if you're not going to see enough savings with 20 minutes, then don't do it.
Right.
But if you think that you are, then you should. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Call the utility companies. That's the one. I'm writing that one down. Number 4.
A lot of people I run into, especially in large groups, when I ask this question, I go, if I pay my credit card bill a week late, will it get me reported to my credit bureau?
I
Most
thought the
people
answer was
say
yes.
most people will say yes, but the
Yeah.
answer is no, because what gets recorded on your credit bureau is when you're more than 30 days late.
Oh,
So if you're a week late, now your credit card bill, my credit card company is going to charge me a late fee if I'm a week late.
right.
Now, if it's the first time, you can call them and they'll probably give you the feedback.
Yeah,
If you do it every month or multiple times a year, they're not going to give you the money back.
right.
But yeah, a lot of folks think, well, you have to think it through what is on a credit bureau. It's every 30 days. So if you're late for 5 days, 10 days, whatever, what happens is a lot of people, they give up because they're like, man, I've been working on my credit for years and now I just missed this payment and now it's going to blow everything out of the water. And they don't even pay the bill. They like pay it a month late. And then it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. You just made
Oh,
yourself 30 days late and it's on your credit bureau. Now, if you would have just paid it a week or two later when you got your next paycheck or whatever, then you would be fine. And yeah, there was a cost to it. You might have got charged 30, 40 bucks in a late fee. But you didn't ruin your credit. You didn't put a mark on there. 130-day late is not going to, it does put a black mark there.
right,
And that black mark stays there for 7 years.
right,
So if you can do something to not have that mark,
right.
so that one's
Okay,
folks that are worried about their credit.
that makes sense. All right, number 5.
I love this one. If I can't pay my bills, the other creditors, I'm just not going to communicate with them. I'm not going to call them back. I'm not going to answer my door. I'm not going to do any of those until I know I have the money to pay them. A lot of people feel this way, that they're like, I feel embarrassed. I feel embarrassed about it. Make the payment. I don't want to communicate with them that I can't make the payment. Where the opposite, as soon as you know there's a problem, you should be reaching out to them. And that means before you're late. If you can't pay that credit card bill, like I'll use that example again, and I know a week before that it's due,
Yeah,
if you call them up, they may waive the fee preemptively. They might say, you know what, Mr. Capitale, I'm glad that you called. You know what, we're going to waive the late fee. When do you think you can make the payment? Well, it's due on the 10th, but I think I can pay it on the 20th. All right, we'll expect your payment on the 20th. If we don't receive it, then we're going to charge you a late fee. So be honest with them. Don't just give them another date and you don't know if that's going to happen.
right,
But a lot of times they'll work with you before you're delinquent. After you're delinquent, then you go to a different department, the delinquency department. Those people aren't as warm and fuzzy as the normal customer service people.
right. And their job isn't to work with you. Their job is to get the money. So
Yeah.
they'll, hell or high water, they will figure out how to get that money. But you're right. Beforehand, I think it's that some of it's shame and some of it's like you make the assumption that they're not going to help you, and you're wrong. I'm not saying that every single person that you call is going to be like, oh my God, it's no problem. Well, we can make that work. I'm not saying that, but you're right. It's about asking the question.
Yep, and more often than not, if you're if you're proactive with it before it happens, you're going to get a little bit easier process than if you wait until you're actually late.
Yeah.
And that includes landlords, mortgage companies, all of those things. They're more willing to work with you when there's communication.
Yeah.
So that's the big part of that one.
You're right. That one's really handy to know, because sometimes life just gets complicated, and life doesn't necessarily get complicated for a long time. It just got complicated for that moment. And so you just need a month to get yourself uncomplicated again. Yeah.
Right.
All right. Number 6.
I can only be a first-time home buyer once.
Okay. Isn't that sort of implied in the statement?
You would think so, but most banks and mortgage companies will qualify you as a first-time home buyer if you've not owned a home for at least 3 years. So if you've not been on the deed or on a mortgage or whatever for at least 3 years. So if, let's say, you moved, and I know that personally, I know you've moved in the past. I've moved in the past. If, let's say, you move from one state to another and you decide to rent for a few years,
Right.
but you were a first-time home buyer where you came from,
Right.
because you've already Pennsylvania,
Right.
it's not a Pennsylvania thing, but if you don't own a home for 3 years, you can then go in and say, I'm a first time home buyer and get all the deals that, and again, as long as you don't own any ownership on, including rental properties or anything else, but
Right.
if you don't own a home for 3 or more years, most of the programs, not all, but
Yeah.
most of the programs will allow you to be a first time home buyer all over again.
Wow. I had no idea. I mean, I thought you were a first time home buyer once and then have a nice day. Your life is screwed.
Yep, not the case.
That's I think we're gonna sing that one from the rooftops. That one's who knew? Well, you did, of course. Whew, that's a fantastic one. All right, number 7.
And this one goes right around with number 6 is a lot when normally when I ask the question, how much do you think you need down to buy a home? Most people say 20%.
Right. Well,
Every once in a while, I'll get someone that says 10%, 15%. Most of the time, for most programs, not just including first time home buyer, but a lot of the other programs, you can get in a lot of times for as low as 3% down.
so when I was a first time home buyer, we didn't pay a thing.
Right? Yeah, there's programs. There are still special programs depending on in certain areas that you can do 0%
Yeah.
if you qualify. But if you're not a first time home buyer, a lot of people don't become a first time home buyer because they think, well, if I want to buy $100,000 house and 20% is $20,000, I will never be able to save that, so I can't be a homeowner.
Oh, so they believe information that is not even remotely close to true, and so they don't even pursue it.
Yep. So we're like we have a match savings program at Tabor that if someone saves 1,000, we'll match it with 2,000, so they have $3,000.
Wow.
So if they're a first time, if they're a home buyer, it doesn't even need to be first time. If they're a home buyer and they're buying $100,000 house and they're saying they have to bring 3% of their own money, well, if they save 1% under Tabor's program, we'll give you the other 2%. So you have your 3% right there. Here you go, Mr. Mortgage Company. Here's your 3%.
Wow.
So not saying that that's all. There's more closing costs and stuff.
Of course,
and there's,
of
And
course.
there's assistance for that too,
Right.
possibly. But that 20% down is a daunting number because just at 100,000, it's $20,000.
Right.
You go to 200,000, that's $40,000.
Right.
Most people are never going to save that much money
Right.
before they want to be a homeowner.
Right.
So just
That's
gives you
good.
the opportunity not to do it, not have to wait that long.
Yeah. Huh. Well, good. That's wonderful. Number 8.
And I don't know, I came from a banking background. So number 8 is overdraft fees are on all checking accounts. So I can't find a way to avoid them.
Oh, no, that's not true.
Yeah, and overdraft fees, there's a law that came out after 2000, in the 2000s, in the late 2000s, that basically said that you had to opt in or opt out using your debit card on how you wanted your debit card to work.
Right.
So there should be something on file for everyone who's listening that has a checking account.
Right.
The bank should have a form on file that says you either opted in or opted out.
Right.
Opted in says, I want my account to overdraft when I'm using my debit card.
Yeah.
So at at the grocery store, you swipe the card, you don't have enough money, you don't want to be embarrassed, and you want the bank to pay it, and you'll pay whatever fee that was involved. The other school of thought is, well, if I'm at the grocery store and it's going to overdraft my account by $1, I want it to just not go through. That's opt out. And you can opt out, so your debit card will not allow you to overdraft your account.
Right.
Now, there are some caveats to that. If you do like a gym membership and they do an automatic payment using your debit card, that can go through and overdraft your account. It's a different type of transaction. It's not a point of sale transaction. Point of sale transaction is you're physically there, you swipe your card.
Okay.
Those other transactions that could be automatic, that are using your debit card number, they can overdraft your account. And of course, if you have checks, like if you're writing checks, those can still overdraft your account.
Right.
But there are ways to eliminate probably most of them. And the problem is years ago when the debit card came out, I remember when they came out, I joke with people, the greatest thing about a debit card is it's convenient. And the worst thing about a debit card is it's convenient. People stop tracking what they did.
Yep.
And if you don't keep receipts or don't track online through your online browser or whatever, then you're just playing with fire sometimes if you are close know that you're tight each month. I've seen people get charged thousands of dollars in overdraft fees.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you that most banks will not give the majority of them back.
Right.
Unless it's fraud, you're not going to see the majority of that come back to you.
Right.
So any way that you can stop that from happening, I'm all for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I changed banks and had to get a new card, and they had that conversation with me. How do you want to do this? And whatever my decision was, and I really thought that through, because you really have to make a decision. If you're close. And sometimes, like I remember, and lots of viewers have probably been in this position. It's about when in the month you write the check versus when you get paid.
Yep.
Because sometimes you can be closer than you thought you were just because of how the money goes in and out. And so I've actually called different bills and said, can we move us from this time of the month to this time of the month? Because I was having like nobody on the 15th and everybody on the 30th. And I was like, nope, because it put me in a funky spot. So I called people and they were like, they were more than happy to do that.
Yeah, I love that. That should be on my list, because a lot of people don't know that you can change the date.
Yeah, especially
like every month you're like 10 days late on something and they keep charging you a fee.
Yeah.
You can just call them and change it. Now, sometimes they won't change it to the exact date you want, but at least within the neighborhood.
Right. But if you, and that was out of desperation, because I was just like, I can't do everything on the 30th or, whatever, the last day of the month, however that works out. And she said, well, what if I move it to the 12th? Oh, glory be.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't believe I may have just added one to the fantastic list. All right. Number 9.
I'm going to flip these because the number 10 is, and I'll go back to 9 because it goes along with the banking piece. I run into a lot of people that think that check cashing places are cheaper than having a checking account.
Oh, no.
And the reason why they think that is because they've been hit with a whole bunch of fees in the past. So,
because they've had overdrafts and the overdraft fees were too high. So they think if I go to a check cashing place, then it'll be cheaper. Oh no, those places are so expensive.
They are. And that scares me, because a lot of folks, they can be getting charged 20, 30, 40% of their paycheck. Some do percentages, some have a flat fee. I know that like large retailers like a Walmart, some of them will do like payroll checks, and they're fairly reasonable in the scheme of things. But I'm talking about those little type of bodega type places in the town and stuff, and they charge a fairly high rate a lot of times. And now if you have one that's really fair, great. But as a whole, they usually charge way more than what a bank would charge in fees.
Yeah.
And I think that if you're getting charged fees at the bank that you were at in the past, you were in the wrong account or someone didn't explain things right to you.
Yeah.
So I can't say that all that onus is on you as the client.
Correct.
But there's definitely folks that don't explain things well.
Right.
So please ask questions when you open accounts, because that could be a huge
somebody
thing.
with you, because I know a friend of mine used to use one of those places, and I was like, "What are you doing? You're getting killed on that." And they said, I'm so terrified when I go to the bank because I don't really understand what they're talking about. And I said, then I'll go with you. And I was like, because you're not getting paid enough as it is. I don't want you to get paid less. You're taking less money home. You're right. And he was too, he was, he didn't feel confident in his knowledge, and it was too hard for him to learn. And he needed somebody to go with him and go, okay. And then I would explain it, and then it was fine.
Yeah.
And I think that there are a lot of people, understandably, who have a fear of the bank. And some of it is because that person's wearing a suit and looks intimidating, and the banker looks like the lawyer, and the lawyer is scary, and and all of those kinds of associations. It's not mean to bankers. I'm not trying to call out bankers. It's just that if you come from a place where banking is not familiar and people have been screwed over by financial institutions, it puts you in a funky spot. So,
and I know, like when I was in banking, I did get a talking to a couple of times that I spent too long with clients. So I usually explained everything, and they're like, well, the average person only talks to them for this long, but you talk to them twice as long. Because, yeah, I was one of those folks that I wanted to make sure you walked out with all the information. And maybe I didn't always play up exactly what the bank wanted me to play up, but I wanted to find out what you as the customer needed.
right.
And I know I did it right, because I kept getting repeat clients, and I kept getting their kids and their friends and everything else, because they knew if they sent someone to me, they were going to get the right information.
Right.
And I don't like to toot my own horn, but it's one of those type of things that so many places they're going for speed.
Right.
How many people can we see an hour? And that's great. We do have to have efficiencies, but an efficiency is only saying, here's this documentation, go ahead and read it when you get home. That's not explaining things.
Yeah.
And that's basically how a lot of places train you to do it. So that's not a good thing. And so the last one here, number 10 now, if I
Yeah.
go back, is actually what we went over the last week, that these medical assistance programs that doctors and other places, the hospitals have, they're only for poor people, so I won't qualify.
Right.
And I think we know the answer to that one, that's definitely not the case. You can make a fairly decent income. It is going to be based on how many people you have in your household. But when they ask you at the hospital, if you're coming in for just a test or whatever, or a procedure, and they say, do you want to know more about our assistance program? The answer should always be yes.
Yes, please.
And get the information. Worst case scenario, you not approve for it, but at least you might be able to ask some questions. And a lot of them, that's how they give back to the community.
Right.
So they want to give the money. It's not helping anybody who's sitting in an account that they have set aside for people for assistance.
Right.
They want to give back. In some instances, they're required to give back to their community. But I think most of the ones I've dealt with, they want to give back to the community.
Right.
And this is just one way to do it. So please, if they ask you, now you find out that you can't because you do make too much income, then great. That's you, at least you know.
Right.
But I was pleasantly surprised that I didn't have to pay a $4,000 bill because I was approved. And I'll take that any day of the week.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So 10 things here. If you want the full list, just put your name in the comments and I will send you the full list so that you've got everything right there in front of you. Todd, as always, 10 things plus more to make things a little easier and to make you go, hey, think about this a little bit more. That's right. That's right. We will see you again next week. Thanks a lot. See you, everybody.